For years, Wandsworth has proudly told residents they pay the lowest council tax in the entire country. That story might be about to end, and depending on which report you read, the increase being discussed could be one of the largest in English history. I'm Emily Lilly, and today I'm breaking down exactly what's being proposed in Wandsworth, how much of this is confirmed versus still under discussion, and what it could mean if your council is facing something similar. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Emily Lilly, and this channel is where I take confusing financial and government news and turn it into something clear enough to actually plan around. Today's story centers on Wandsworth Council in South London, which has spent years boasting the lowest council tax bills in England. That's now colliding head-on with major changes to how central government funds local councils, and reports suggest Wandsworth could be facing a council tax increase of up to 160%. I want to walk you through exactly what's confirmed, what's still just a proposal, and why this is happening now. By the end of this video, you'll understand the real numbers behind this story, why Wandsworth specifically is in this position, and what it might signal for council tax more broadly across England. Let's start with the headline figure, and I want to be precise about it, because triple isn't quite the right word for what's being discussed. According to reporting from Politics Home, Wandsworth Council is preparing proposals for a council tax increase of up to 160%. To be clear about the math, a 160% increase means your bill would rise to about 2.5 times its current level, not a full 3 times. It's an enormous rise either way, potentially the largest single council tax increase in English local government history, but it's worth being accurate about the figure rather than rounding it up to tripling. As of this recording, no final decision has been made. Wandsworth's deputy leader, Peter Graham, has reportedly said a 3-figure percentage increase is likely, but the exact final number hasn't been confirmed. This is genuinely still a proposal working its way through the council's budget process, not a locked-in bill you'll see land on your doormat tomorrow. If it does go ahead at anywhere close to that level, it could add around £800 to the average household's annual bill, with any increase not taking effect until April 2027. For context on just how low Wandsworth's rates currently are, the average Band D council tax bill across England for 2026 to 2027 sits at roughly £2,392, while Wandsworth residents have been paying somewhere around £990 to £1,050 for the same band, after the council froze the main element of council tax for 4 consecutive years. So why would a council go from freezing tax for 4 years straight to potentially proposing the largest single increase in the country's history? This comes down to a major change in how central government funds local councils. Wandsworth is facing a significant cut to its central government grant funding, driven by a wider redistribution of funding toward areas considered more deprived nationally. According to the council's own analysis, produced in January 2026, government funding figures assumed a very large council tax increase from Wandsworth as part of this transition, with independent analysis from the Institute for Fiscal Studies suggesting the government's funding assumptions implied an increase in the region of 75 to 86% for Wandsworth. Because of the scale of this funding shift, the government granted special flexibility to 6 local authorities: Wandsworth, Westminster, Kensington and Chelsea, Hammersmith and Fulham, the City of London, and Windsor and Maidenhead, allowing them to raise council tax above the normal 5% annual cap without triggering a local referendum, specifically for the 2027 to 2028 and 2028 to 2029 financial years. Normally, any council wanting to raise tax by more than roughly 5% in a single year has to put it to local residents in a referendum. This flexibility removes that requirement for these 6 councils during this transition period. Wandsworth isn't alone in facing this. Westminster Council has separately been reported to be considering a council tax rise of up to 100%, with some reporting suggesting bills there could rise by as much as 200%. Both councils have historically charged some of the lowest council tax rates in the country, which is exactly why they're facing such steep percentage increases now, even though their starting bills were low to begin with. Main Section 3, what this could mean for you. Let's bring this back to what actually matters, whether or not you live in Wandsworth. If you are a Wandsworth resident, here's my honest, personal recommendation, not official advice. Keep a close eye on the council's official budget announcements over the coming months. Since this proposal still needs to go through the council's formal budget setting process before anything is confirmed, the council has indicated that if an increase of this scale goes ahead, it would likely be paired with a tax freeze for the remainder of the current political term. So this appears to be framed as a one-time, significant reset rather than the start of repeated massive annual increases. If you don't live in Wandsworth or Westminster, this story is still worth watching because it reflects a broader shift in how councils across England are funded. If your own council has historically kept tax rates unusually low, it's worth understanding whether similar funding redistribution could eventually affect your area too, even if the scale won't necessarily be the same. Second, if you're budgeting for the next couple of years and you live in one of these affected boroughs, it's worth building in some flexibility for a potentially significant rise from April 2027, rather than assuming your bill will stay roughly where it's been. Third, local councils are required to consult residents and businesses as part of their budget process. So if you want to have input into this decision, keep an eye out for Wandsworth's public consultation windows, which the council has run in previous budget cycles. Narrator's opinion. Let me step out of reporter mode for a moment and share my honest take. In my opinion, this is a genuinely difficult situation with legitimate arguments on more than one side, and I'd encourage you to look at it that way rather than picking a villain. On one hand, Wandsworth residents have enjoyed years of unusually low council tax, in some cases well under half the national average. So a correction of some kind was arguably always somewhat likely once funding rules changed. On the other hand, a potential increase of this size, landing all at once, is a genuinely serious financial shock for many households, particularly those on fixed incomes who built their budgets around Wandsworth's historically low rates. I also think it's worth being skeptical of headlines using the word triple here. A 160% increase is enormous, but it's not literally tripling your bill, and I think precision matters, especially on a topic that's already stressful for a lot of people to think about. Quick recap. Wandsworth Council is reportedly preparing a proposal for a council tax increase of up to 160%, which would represent roughly 2.5 times the current bill, potentially the largest single council tax rise in English history. This isn't yet confirmed and still needs to go through the council's formal budget process. It's driven by major cuts to central government funding and a wider redistribution of council funding nationally, with special flexibility granted to Wandsworth and 5 other councils to raise tax above the usual cap without a referendum. If it proceeds, it wouldn't take effect until April 2027 and would likely come with a tax freeze for the rest of the current term. That's today's update. I hope this gave you the real accurate picture behind a headline that's understandably alarmed a lot of people. As always, for decisions about your own council tax or household budget, check official announcements directly from your local council. If this video helped you understand what's really going on, please hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people trying to make sense of this story. Subscribe and turn on notifications too, since I'll be covering Wandsworth's final decision once it's confirmed. Let me know in the comments, is your own council facing anything similar? I read every comment, so let's talk about it down there. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Emily Lilly, and I'll see you in the next one.